the Gaza Strip at the moment, around 2 million Palestinians, 2.1 million, still don't have proper supplies of water, food, fuel and electricity. That's after Israel over the weekend said that 1.1 million people had to move to the south of the Strip. At the same time, Palestinians, as you know, cannot leave the area. They're basically blockaded in by Israel. Egypt refuses to let people leave through the Rafah border post into their country. At least 2,600 Palestinians have been killed. Around 1,200 Israelis were killed in those attacks by Hamas last weekend. Both of these figures, of course, could be changing quite quickly. Genevieve Quintal is the spokesperson for Amnesty International South Africa. Genevieve, good afternoon to you. You're watching the situation in the Middle East quite closely. As Amnesty International, how do you describe what's happening in Gaza at the moment?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and thank you so much for having me. So, as Amnesty International, firstly, we strongly condemn the attacks against civilians in Gaza. Over the past few days, we've seen bombs relentlessly pound the area, leveling out entire neighborhoods and wiping out whole families. And Gaza's besieged civilians cannot escape. They have nowhere to go. They have no way of seeking safety. And this is due to Israel's ongoing illegal blockade. They've been trapped in this, what a lot of people call the biggest open-air prison since 2007, when Israel imposed the full land, sea, and air blockade. And we've been saying this for a number of years now, amounts to collective punishment, which is a war crime. It's the orders to evacuate hospitals, to evacuate areas, is really unacceptable and is also unreasonable for these people to leave. As I said, where do they go? And so we're watching this very carefully. We've got a research team that is trying to collect as much evidence as possible as this whole episode unfolds, Stephen.
So Israel won't allow proper electricity or drinking water. I mean, actions like that. Israel says it's doing this to sort of protect its own citizens. It's a response to Hamas. How do you feel about all of that?
Well, this all amounts to an absolute war crime. It's illegal. This blockade is inhumane. It's illegal. It goes against all international humanitarian law. But civilians. When you are targeting civilians, this issue of collective punishment goes against international law. It is seen as a war crime in terms of international law. How do you punish innocent civilians, children, women, people who are disabled, just normal people trying to live their lives? How do you justify punishing them like this? And this is not to say that we don't condone the attacks that brought this on, but what we're saying is there is a cycle that needs to be a core issue that needs to be dealt with, and this is the apartheid that is being imposed on the people of Palestine by the Israeli government. We see these flares up of violence every year, every few years, because of this systemic problem that we've seen in the area for decades now.
We see a huge amount of action by other countries in this. So, I mean, Iran, the United States, of course, a huge player in this. What should other countries be doing at the moment? What should they be calling on Israel and, I suppose, Hamas to do?
Well, Stephen, what we've been saying is that what the international community should be doing is calling on both sides to stop the violence, stop the attacks, stop the escalation of the violence and the escalation of attacks. It doesn't help that, you keep feeding the beast, and almost you condemn the one side, condone the other. There needs to be a call for all of this to stop, for the violence to stop, because in the end, and it's what we've been saying since the start of this last week, Saturday, is that the civilians are being punished for the failures of politicians. And so actually the international community needs to come in. Now the UN needs to come in. The international justice mechanisms such as the ICC need to come in. But I think our first thing is that everyone needs to call on both sides to stop with the attacks and the escalation of the attacks and the violence.
So, Genevieve, I mean, organizations like yours, like Amnesty International, a long track record, a lot of credibility in many parts of the world. Human Rights Watch, also the same, also issued reports similar to yours about the situation in Gaza. I think Human Rights Watch, I can't recall if it was them or yourselves who called Gaza an open-air prison. I think it was Human Rights Watch. Do you think that the people who make decisions in the Middle East are actually listening to you? Are they listening to your warnings? And I mean, these are well-founded reports you've put out.
So, Stephen, yes and no. Yes, I do think they're listening. They are unhappy with our reports. We've seen the reaction to our reports. And it's not just Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. It's B'Tselem, it's Al-Haq, there are a number of human rights organizations. We are all basically saying the same thing. And yes, maybe while we're not seeing change immediately, what we can do as human rights organizations is keep pushing for something to be done, keep releasing these reports, keep releasing the evidence of this, with the hope that one day something is done. You know, already the ICC in 2021, the International Criminal Court, did open an investigation and is investigating what's happening in Palestine and Israel. It's looking at all the attacks. There was a statement, I think, late last week saying that they will include these recent attacks in their mandate, in their investigation. What we are asking as Amnesty International, though, as well, is that the prosecutor of the ICC needs to move quicker and more swiftly with this investigation. Like I said, the investigation was opened in 2021. We're now in 2023. We need to move a bit quicker to get to a conclusion of this investigation. We need international justice systems to work. We know there's been issues, and I know people always say that they're double standards. We know there are double standards. We haven't been quiet about those double standards, but it doesn't mean that we must weaken these international justice systems. We need to ensure that they are strengthened so that everyone, no matter who you are, is held accountable.
Genevieve Quintal, thank you. Spokesperson for Amnesty International South Africa. Do appreciate that. Well,